接下来，我们将有请荷兰驻沪总领事馆科技处科技与创新官员白大卫先生为我们带来荷兰赛区一等奖团队 Deep Branch 的现场连线。有请。
Thanks. So my name is David Beckers. I'm from the Dutch Consulate here in Shanghai, and I'm very happy to introduce Deep Branch. Actually, this is a little bit of a Dutch company and also maybe a little bit of a UK company. So this shows how international innovation also in the chemical sector can be nowadays. Something I will talk about a little bit later still. I won't spoil too much, but so they're setting up a factory in the Netherlands, in Camelot. They have an awesome technology that has something to do with CO2 and protein, but I think they can introduce that better. So I'll leave it up to you. Deep Branch, over to you.
Thank you. I'm Ahmed, Associate Director of Partnerships at Deep Branch, a carbon recycling company. At the risk of stating the obvious, I'd like to say that humanity is struggling to find a sustainable way of feeding ourselves. This includes feeding the animals we farm. The growing population of the world and increasing wealth in developing countries means that the global consumption of animal products is set to double by 2050. Animal products can be extremely resource intensive, and reducing consumption is a great way for individuals to effect change on a personal level. Despite this recent trend, on a global scale, increasing demand comes with significant environmental challenges. The main source of protein used to feed our farmed animals is often sourced on the other side of the Atlantic. A high-quality protein diet is especially important for carnivorous fish, like salmon. The traditional protein sources for these types of animal feeds have historically come from soy and fish meal. Although there are some alternatives developing, none of these have demonstrated the ability to scale to the required commercial levels to meet the rising demand. But it doesn't have to be this way. We transform carbon dioxide into proton, a sustainable protein ingredient that is used partially or completely to replace conventional protein sources for animal feed. The way the technology works is a form of fermentation. Our proprietary microbes utilize carbon dioxide and hydrogen as respective sources of carbon and energy, in the same way that most microbes use sugar. Proton has a comparable nutritional profile to fish meal, the animal feed gold standard. Because it's produced independent of weather or season, it is stable and competitively priced. It is dramatically more sustainable. But what does this mean in real terms? For every 100 kilotons of proton produced, has the potential to avoid an area 3 times the size of Paris being deforested to make way for soy production. By using proton-based feeds, salmon can be produced with significantly smaller carbon footprint. We've been very busy this lockdown year. We've been successful in securing 2 significant grants for our work from Innovate UK and European Horizon 2020. This illustration represents our consortium project with Innovate UK, and we are really excited to be working together with our partners who represent the full supply chain. We work with Drax, the UK's largest single-site renewable electricity generator, to recycle CO2 generated from their bioenergy power plant. We work with world-leading sustainable aquafeed producer Biomar to develop the next generation of low-carbon salmon feeds. And we do the same for poultry with AB Agri, one of Europe's biggest chicken feed producers. This project is complemented by our European Horizon 2020 project, which will focus on the engineering aspect of the technology and culminate in a plant capable of scaling up our production. Deep Branch was only founded 2 years ago. Since that point, we have secured great partnerships to see us take our technology out of the lab and into the real world. We have a team of 16. Out of those 16, there's 12 different countries represented. Very diverse, very international, great experience. We have commercial activities across Northwest Europe, but we see that our technology can have transformative potential and local protein production to countries that value food security and reduction of carbon footprint. Over the next year, we will work across key areas to bring Proton to market. Complement the build of our scale-up center in the Netherlands, refining proton-based recipes for feeds, and continue to broaden proof of principle work in other sectors. We are targeting a market launch for proton-based feeds by 2022, with a commercial facility online by 2024. We foresee the next steps for us to target launching multiple commercial facilities across the world. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I believe we have a couple of minutes for questions here, but if you're interested in more information offline, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed, for your presentation. I'd like to open the floor to questions, so please raise your hand if you have a question. I see multiple questions. I saw you first.
Thank you. This is Howard Huang from SCIP Ventures. And actually, I have two questions. First question is about your process or about the cost. As you know, I heard about that your fermentation, so it's a bio, so is it scalable? And if scalable, what is the, in the scalable scale, what is the cost compared to current soybean? And second question is about your market or the market positioning. As you know, I saw if you are actually can produce protein. So I'm curious, why don't you target at artificial meat, or you rather go into artificial feed? Thanks.
Thank you for your question. So for the first point, in terms of our fermentation process, the biggest difference between soy and fish meal, of course, is our consistency. And it's the process that's, you could have it local. So there's no need for shipping. You could actually produce it in a fermentation process that would need specific input, which is carbon dioxide, hydrogen, nitrogen, actually, and a few handful of minerals. So we have a consistent process of fermentation. This process it doesn't require, again, much land. So that's the biggest difference. And we're very happy to share more numbers in terms of the impact, in terms of sustainability. But we definitely have food security top of mind and local production as the key factors of differentiation. Of course, at the same time, making sure that our inputs and our production is easily scalable and safely scalable as well. And in terms of the second question of market, we are developing a technology that could work in many different verticals. The main pull is our focus on aquaculture, of course, in terms of the industry demand, and in terms of us having that phase one of market traction as well. So we are looking to replicate the success that we had in the UK and in Europe, in Asia as well, especially with the market pull in the APAC region. So that's the reason that we're focused on, we're hearing the markets and we're listening more of where the demand is, and we're making sure to replicate the success that we had, especially for scaling, to produce that local production.
Thank you very much. And sorry, further question still on the first. And if you, for your pilot scale or pilot stage, what will be the current price if we compare to current soybean price? What will be your cost compared how many times?
Sure. Are you asking more about the pricing of the product or the actual process
And you can be a larger scale or during your scale up, or 5 years later or 10 years later, in maximum.
Sure. So yeah. the proton is more comparable to fish meal in terms of value and in terms of protein. So it's 70% protein, and it's more compared to the gold standard of fish meal. The reason we always mention soy and fish meal is to focus on that. We stand right underneath fish meal, but at the same time showcase that soy is used. It is a plant-based alternative, but there is a difference between the value that we actually offer within the product, but it's closer to fish meal.
Yeah, I see. So even for fish meal, like salmon fish, so how much? I mean the price or your cost?
Sure. So
how many
sure.
times?
So the range overall is comparable to fish meal. So it's around the 1,400 to 1,600 euros per ton.
Okay.
And at the same time, the scaling process, as we're looking at it, we always start with de-risking the technology. So looking at our mobile pilot unit to be placed to de-risk the technology to make sure that there's consistent batches when it comes to testing the carbon dioxide intake, the hydrogen intake. And then from there is the scale up to our commercial actual facility. So we make sure we take the phased out approach.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So in the eye of time, I saw another question on the second row. Maybe we can still go to that one. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Ahmed. My name is Ray. I'm from Sasso Chemical. I think it's a very interesting topic. I got two questions. The first one is about regulatory. Because when we're talking about food, if we're talking about human food, it's always relevant to some regulatory issues or requirements like FDA, this kind of a requirement. I'm just interested to know when you're working on animal food, are there any regulatory requirement you have to fulfill? That's my first question. And second one is, I see you're planning to work with University of Nottingham and University of Stirling to do some nutritional assessment. Just curious, what kind of assessment criteria are you looking at? Are you just looking at the content of protein, or are there any other criteria you're looking at? Thank you.
Great questions, thank you. So for your first question, well, I'll tackle the second question first. So our work with our partners in general is working with the commercial and academic worlds. So specifically University of Nottingham, there's the strain development aspect and the SynBio aspect specifically. For University of Nottingham, Nottingham Trent University and University of Stirling, there is digestibility tests that are being taking place, and actually feed trials specifically for salmon with the University of Stirling and Nottingham Trent University when it comes to chicken, when it comes to poultry. This is complemented with the compound feed manufacturers, the giants that we're working with, including Biomar on the salmon side specifically, and AB Agri on the chicken side. That goes to the question of regulation, which is always something that we are very cognizant of, we're very focused on, especially that our product is a non-GMO product. So it is focused on matching all the heavy regulations of Europe specifically. So that hopefully addresses both questions on the regulations part and on what we're working with the current projects of Innovate UK. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we can go to the next part here. So they listed an email address there. That's not for nothing. So if you have any more questions, I'm sure you can reach out to them through email. Thanks.